Hello there monsters and men, ladies and people, and welcome to Recharging. Standing right here is a Kia E Niro. And this car shares a lot of similarities with the Kia E-Soul, but also with the Hyundai Kona EV. And the question I want to answer in this review is, how does this car compare to that Hyundai Kona EV? Is it worse? Is it equal? Or maybe, is it better? And why the Hyundai Kona EV? Well, I do still think that that car is one of the best EVs that you can currently buy. So how does it compare then in size? Well, where the Hyundai Kona is clearly a car in the B segment, this car is clearly a car in the C segment. So that means this car is quite a lot bigger than that Hyundai Kona. How can you see that? For example, in the boot. I will already say this car does not have a frunk or fruit, but the boot is quite a lot bigger. Let's have a look. So the Hyundai Kona has a boot space of around 330 liters. But if we open up the boot of the Kia E Niro, you will see a boot space of around 450 liters. And if you put down the rear seats, you will see a boot space of around 1400 liters. So it is quite a lot bigger, so this car is more practical. And this car will probably suit your average family better than a Hyundai Kona. But is it the same in the back seats? Yes, of course. Being a bigger car, you do have more space in the back than in a Hyundai Kona. The seat in front of me is in my typical driving position. I am 1 meter and 85 centimeters and I have plenty of knee room left. Headroom though is not so great. I only have this little bit of headroom left. So that means people taller than me might get stuck with their head. This car does have the same problem though as the Hyundai Kona, and that is that, well, the battery pack is located under the floor, and because of that the floor in the back is raised up a little bit. Because of that your feet are higher, your knees are a little bit higher, and this angle may get a little bit uncomfortable on those longer trips. Also, because the floor is a little bit higher and when the driver has their seat in the lowest position, you cannot shove your feet under the driver's seat. So if you want to create that little bit of more leg room, the driver has to raise up their seat a little bit, and then they may not sit ideal. What else here in the back? Well, quality wise, it is what you expect from a car at this price point, at least where this car is based on, the hybrid Kia Niro. So that means hard plastic. They are not that scratchy though, but they are hard plastic. You do have a soft armrest with a little bit of leather, so that looks nice. A little bit of piano black here. And this car does have heated seats in the back, so that is actually very fancy. You do have separate air vents here for the backseat passengers, so that is great. There's almost no hump in the floor, so sitting here with 3 persons, you can do that quite easily. And there is an armrest right here with 2 cup holders. So basically all the luxury that you need, and maybe a little bit more because of the heated seats. And here in the front, the same story continues. I mean, you can clearly see that this car is based off a car in the highest segment. The look of the interior just looks a little bit more mature. Also, the materials being used are just a little bit better. I mean, you have some soft touch up here, some nice piano look with some texture here. Plastic metal look strip. Of course, when you get lower, the materials will get harder and maybe a little bit more scratchy, but that is what you expect and that you find in most cars. There's also some soft touch here on the doors, soft touch armrest, some piano look. Overall, it all looks pretty good, it feels pretty good. Also, the buttons just look and feel, and the feedbacks of the buttons just are from a segment higher than the Hyundai Kona is. Feature-wise though, there is nothing you can complain about. I mean, this is a top spec model and you got everything that you want. You have climate control, you have heated seats, you have ventilated seats, you have a heated steering wheel. You have all the connectivity that you want. You even have memory seats. And I'm always very curious how other people sit. I mean, number 1 is set my setting, but how will number 2 be? Let's have a look. Oh, what's happening? No, this is no good. Yeah, oh yeah. Very comfy. What about the cubby spaces? Well, there's not a lot to complain. You do have door pockets that will fit a 1 liter bottle. 1.5 liter will get tight or do not fit, so that is a little bit of a downside. Under the armrest though, there is some space to store stuff with a USB port to charge whatever you want. In front of that, there is a huge cubby where you can store stuff and where there are also 2 optional cup holders, so you can use this as cup holders or as a storage compartment. That's pretty nice. Here you have a wireless charging pad for your phone, and then under here there's also some space where you can put whatever you want. So it's all very, very good actually, and the glove box is also of a decent size. So besides the door pockets, again, nothing much to complain. So I said the connectivity is all that you want, but how good is it? Well, being the 2020 model of the Kia E Niro, this car gets the updated Kia Hyundai infotainment system. So what do you get? You get an infotainment system which has a screen of 10 inches, so it's actually a very wide screen. The screen itself has a good resolution, it's sharp. Also the processor is fast because it's very responsive and it actually works very fast, so that's all very good. And well, the main feature of the screen, because it is that wide, you do have, for example, when I have the map open, 2/3 is your map. You can also have it extend fully if you want, but 2/3 is your map and 1/3 is something else. For example, my battery percentage or my range, or maybe I want the time, or maybe I want a compass, or whatever, travel information, weather. You can put there whatever you want. But overall, it is a very nice and fast system to use. Sometimes when you have to adjust some setting, you have to dig a little bit deeper, and then it cannot be that user-friendly in my opinion. But overall, if you have put down all your settings and you stay with the main features, so your map, your radio, your connectivity, it's actually a very nice system to use. Of course, it does have support for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Thumbs up for that. And also with the new infotainment system comes the connectivity with an app. Yes, this car comes with an app now where you can see your state of charge, how fast your car is charging. You can preheat the car and all those kind of things. So that is, again, very 2020 and I very like it. Here in front of the driver though, you do have some digital screens, but it is not like a Volkswagen virtual cockpit. No, they're just, it's all very clear. You can see your speed, your estimate range, and in the middle is a display that you can change a little bit. But overall, it's nothing too fancy, but it is fancy enough for what it has to do. So before we start driving, can you find a good driving position in this car? Well, the short answer to that is yes. The steering wheel is adjustable in all ways. Also, the electric seats, you can raise it all the way up. You can put it all the way forward. Nobody will have troubles finding a good driving position in this car. So how about driving with the Kia E Niro? Well, let's first talk about a few numbers, because this car has a 204 horsepower engine. It has almost 400 Newton meters of torque, and with that it will do 0 to 100 in about 7.8 seconds. It has a top speed of 167 kilometers an hour. So yeah, this car is quick enough. No, it's not insanely quick like the Teslas and all the expensive EVs, but for almost everyone it is quick enough. But maybe more important, what is the range of this car? Well, this car has the same 64 kilowatt hour battery pack and also the same motor as the long range Hyundai Kona and also as the Kia E-Soul. But can this car, because it is a bigger car, can it drive less than the Hyundai Kona on a one state of charge? Well, the short answer to that is yes. But the long answer to that is the WLTP range of the Hyundai Kona 2020 is around 480 kilometers. So that is a lot. And the WLTP range of this car is around 450 kilometers. So you can drive about 10% less on one state of charge than you can with that Hyundai Kona. But does it really matter? When I picked up this car, the car was charged to 100%, and the car estimated that I could do 440 kilometers an hour. 440 kilometers an hour. That is a lot, and that is more than most people drive on a daily basis. So do you really need that extra 10%? Well, some people do, but also a lot of people don't. And while driving with this car, yes, on the highway, you do notice that it consumes more. By the consumption number here in front of you, it consumes more than a Hyundai Kona. It is a bigger car, so it will consume more. But still, without even trying, the top speed in the Netherlands is 100 kilometers an hour during the day. And while doing that, 110 kilometers an hour, the consumption was still less than 16 kilowatt hour per 100 kilometers. So that means over 400 kilometers of range. It is up to you, but this car is still ridiculously efficient. So what about the actual driving then? Well, let's first start with the steering. It is actually very neutral. It's not too heavy, it's not too light. It is direct, but it doesn't have a lot of feeling to it. I mean, don't expect something sporty here, but it won't offend anyone either. What about the road noise then? Well, I think it is quieter in here than a Hyundai Kona. And that's also probably because this car is just a bigger car. It's one segment higher, so there's probably a little bit more soundproofing. And also the Nexon tires on the Kona don't really help because, well, they can be quite noisy. This one has Michelin Primacy tires, and I think the 2020 models of the Kona will also get those tires, so maybe then it will be a little bit better. But overall, I think this car is just a little bit more quiet. And also with the suspension, because it has a longer wheelbase, the car feels less fiddly on smooth roads. I mean, on smooth roads it's exactly the same, but on an unsmoother road, this car feels less fiddly, and that's probably because of the longer wheelbase. The suspension of this car is more on the firm side than on the comfortable side. Don't get me wrong, it does not get uncomfortable in this car. It's actually a very excellent cruiser. But, for example, if you go over speed bumps, and I think also the distance the suspension can travel is quite short, because if you go over speed bumps with quite a high speed, man, your front will first fly up and then your back will fly up, and then something in the back will actually get off the floor and then slam back. You will hear something like that. I mean, if you go over speed bumps with this quite quickly, it can be a little bit bumpy. But overall, the experience driving this car, again, it feels like a bigger car and it drives like a bigger and just a slightly more mature car. So what about all the driving features then? Well, being the top range model, this car has everything that you can basically want. It has adaptive cruise control, it will steer for you, it will keep you in lane. When you go in reverse, it has a warning when something is approaching from the right or the left. Also in terms of safety features, it has front collision warning, and there's blind spot monitoring, it has blind spot warning. So basically all the modern safety features and driving features that you can get are available on this car. And they also work pretty well. I mean, the adaptive cruise control of Kia and Hyundai actually works very well, and it keeps you correctly in lane. I really like it. What else is there? Well, of course, being an electric car, this car has regeneration, and it has regeneration modes 1, 2 and 3, or coast mode. You can also coast with this car, and you can determine that by using the pedals here on the right and on the left. So if I press the pedal on the left, it will regen less. If I press the pedal on the right, it will regen more. What I can also do is hold the right pedal. What will then happen? The car will come to a full stop with regen. So that's all pretty nice. But what this car also has, and I never tried it on my own car, but it works actually quite well, so maybe I will turn it on, is the auto regeneration. So what that will do is it will use the radar in front of the car that it also uses for your adaptive cruise control or for your front collision warning. And based on the information that that radar is giving you, it will determine the amount of regeneration that it has to apply, and also in combination with your speed. So right now I'm driving 100 kilometers an hour. The car in front of me is quite far away, so the regeneration is set to 1. But when I come closer to the car, the regen will automatically go to 2, go to 3. So it will try and keep the distance to the car in front of me. Of course, you have to pay attention because it's only based on regen, so the car cannot completely stop on that when you approach too quickly. But still, I really like this feature. It's a comfort feature, and it makes you more lazy while driving, but it is pretty nice. It works actually pretty well. Sometimes it gets a little bit confused when there is, for example, a cyclist over there. Then it thinks, oh crap, I have to do regen number 3. Well, actually there's nothing going on. But overall, when you're just on the highway or on the road where there are mostly cars, it works quite well. So what about charging? Well, this is the 2020 model of the Kia E Niro. And Kia and Hyundai have updated all the 2020 models to have a 3-phase onboard charger instead of a 1-phase onboard charger. So what does that mean? That means this car can charge on AC now to up to 11 kilowatts on 16 amp 3 phases. So that means getting from 0 to 100% will take you around 7 hours. Where first that would take you around 21 hours because it could only take one of those phases. I mean, that is a huge upgrade. On 32 amps though, this car can still take up to 7.6 kilowatts, so that hasn't changed. What also hasn't changed are the DC charging capabilities. This car can still take up to 75 kilowatts, which is okay, which is decent. Mainly also because the charging curve is quite steady, so up to 75% it will take a quite high charging rate. But it's not really a complaint, but an upgrade that I would like to see is that, also with the Hyundai Kona for example, is that it would charge up with 100 kilowatts and then slowly ramp down, just to have that little bit faster charging speed, to have those little bit faster charging times on DC, because filling it up now from 10 to 80% will take you around 35 minutes. But if you have that 100 kilowatts, it can maybe charge up to 25 minutes, and then it comes close to compete with a Tesla or an Audi e-tron on DC fast charging. So how does this car compare to the Hyundai Kona? Well, let me first say that both are great EVs that have an efficiency, and because of that efficiency, a range that is still hard to match by a lot of competitors. But you can clearly see that the Kia E Niro is based on a larger, more expensive car. And because of that, it has more space, so it has more practicality. And the interior and ride quality is just better of that of the Hyundai Kona. But I can still think of a few reasons why you should buy a Kona instead of a Kia E Niro. For example, you want that max range and max efficiency. Yeah, of course the Kona is smaller, so you should take that one. Or you really don't like the look of this car, then go for the Kona. I mean, again, it's still a great car. Or the price. I mean, that's not a thing here in the Netherlands, because for some reason the cars are equal in price, which I really don't understand, but I can imagine that in your country the Kona is cheaper and therefore you would choose the Kona. Or 4 is the waiting time, because I heard stories, at least here in the Netherlands, that people have to wait a year before they can receive their Kia E Niro. And a year is a long time, so I can imagine that if you could get another car sooner, you would choose that one. But if those things don't apply to you, or you don't mind them, then in my opinion the Kia E Niro is the better car to buy. So if you like this video, please give a like and subscribe. If you did not, please leave a comment below to see what I can improve. And then I would like to say now, as always, thank you a lot for watching, and to be continued.